Rajan, Shanta, Sudarshan, Ramana, who took this initiative, and friends. It's always a difficult task to remember Rao and summing up his personality. I knew him from 1964 when I was in post-graduation. He used to come to our department because Professor Ramreddy, who later became UGC chairman, they were very close friends from London School of Economics. So Rao used to come to the department, and ever since I have seen him or have heard him, it always was amazing. Amazing his memory, his scholarship, his wit, and his overall romantic with a pipe and those. Rao essentially belongs to the age of enlightenment. He is a product of enlightenment largely because his scholarship was not confined to political science or social sciences. He was a broad-based scholar. He was interested in cricket, he was interested in music, he was interested in cinema. He was, his interests were so large, encompassing, that one is amazed that how a person can be so intensely involved and interested in such a large areas of different walks of human life. Cricket, he would remember what happened, which game, 60s, 70s, if you are sitting with him. If there is any reference to cricket, he will get into cricket. Cinema, of course, he would remember all songs. He was also a good singer. And he would sing songs and remember old cinema to latest. That Shankarabharanam cinema he has seen 19 times. I was so amazed. I said, sir, how could you see that movie in 19? He liked the music. And it was a music-centered cinema, highly music-dominated. Shankarabharanam itself is one of the, rhymes in the music world. So Rao was so passionately involved in music. And his scholarship was such that you talk to him philosophy, he would talk philosophy. Hindu philosophy to Western philosophy, he was so good in philosophy. You talk to him literature from Shakespeare, he would talk the English literature, even Telugu literature. He was fairly, acquainted with Telugu literature. Methodology, suppose you discuss, then he would recall who contributed what. And I think he reminds, scholarship, somebody like Bertrand Russell or Lasky or Loswell, he was a student of Loswell also. And as far as the class is concerned, I think Vasanti herself was his student. Sometimes his classes would run hours together. Somebody is surprised. He would also used to teach in a coaching center. Both of us were teaching. 5 hours one day he taught. I was surprised, sir, how could you teach 5 hours? He would enjoy. See, once you enjoy teaching, the time doesn't matter. Rao and every student who studied under him would remember his memory, his scholarship. The students would be mesmerized. That what is scholarship, If he is teaching a lesson, if there is a reference to something, he will go into the origin, details of that, and will come back to the original point. But that is something I don't think I have seen any teacher of Rao's, scholarship and brilliance. He was absolutely brilliant. And his wit was also very sharp. If you were talking to him, he would, I still remember, he used to come to our department when I became a faculty in Usman University. One day, Professor Ramreddy, myself and Rao, we went to a hotel. So we ordered for idli. Then Rao said, Ram Reddy, Telangana fellows prepare such good degrees. And Professor Ram Reddy said, your ignorance caused one agitation. If you continue to be ignorant, there will be a second agitation for separate Telangana. So this was the type of discussion they used to have as very close friends. And of course, when he joined University of Hyderabad, obviously, he stayed with Professor Ram Reddy because Professor Ram Reddy became Vice-Chancellor. He was in the lodge, and till he settled, he was staying. And since myself, Professor Ram Reddy, we were working on a book, we used to meet very frequently. And Rao, of course, one day, both of us wanted to write an article together on coordination in rural development. So Rao would say, what is the origin of coordination? How the word started? What is the etymology of that? I said, sir, this way paper can never be complete. So first we come down to the brass tag. Then he would be interested in scholarship in such a way that he would go to the origin. And 5-6 days we worked. Then Professor Ram Reddy said, you chaps can never write a paper together because I am an empirically rooted man, he is theoretically. Now, gap also because I am a student of public administration, which is essentially nuts and bolts. We don't have any training in theory, in philosophy, because basically, and my own research was completely grassroots. Training. Rao's training was different. International relation, Rajan would recall, if you talk of international relation, he will talk international relation. And I think the way Rao, if you will converse with him, that conversation would be just passionate. And we used to go together for seminars. And Rao would talk, suppose new education policy in 1985. We attended a number of seminars together in Vijayawada and Visakhapatnam, different places. So Rao would talk of education, philosophy of education, origin of education, how knowledge started, Greek traditions and all that. New education policy, he would come much later. Now people would go on thinking that what would Rao have to say about new education policy, but he was interested in that philosophical stream. What is knowledge, origin of knowledge, this is how he would talk. I would talk, see the grassroots, brass tacks, and I didn't have the scholarship of his kind. And in the evening, Professor Dhan, who was a good friend of Rao, who was classmates in Banaras Hindu University, so he organized a seminar. And evening, we were having some drinks and were relaxing. Then Dhan asked Rao, what do you speak today on new education policy? What is your stand? It was not very clear. Haragopal took a stand. So Rao said, look, who got more applause from the hall? Dhan said, of course, definitely who got more applauses. Then he said, my lecture was applauded. Haragopal's lecture was appreciated. See, Rao would have this type of, comments to make. I think this personality of Rao definitely, but when I joined University of Hyderabad, first thing that surprised me was the entire hierarchy that normally we have in Usman University was not there. Rajan, Shanta, Cecil, they will all call him Chandrasekhara. And I come from that very traditional school, hierarchical, and I was so surprised that a senior colleague could be called, and he was also heading the department, Chandrasekhara. Rajan, of course, both Shanta Rajan, they are products of JNU. Sheshadri used to say one day that I joined JNU, they call me by name. So Sheshadri, they call me Sheshadri. Because Sheshadri was not able to believe that somebody can be called Sheshadri. But sir, I said, sir, JNU culture is different. It's completely built on a different cultural foundations, and the perspective of JNU was different. But I come from that. Sheshadri also was my teacher in the graduation. So when the colleagues can call, and Rao was not hierarchical. He was a true democrat in that sense. He was very liberal, he was very democratic, and in the department hardly we had any hierarchy. I joined totally a department of a different culture. Rao, I think, with his stature, with his exposure, scholarship, And I think he contributed to building the image of the department and also promoting democratic culture in the department. In fact, the political science department has this tradition. And when I was heading the department, whenever a guest came, I used to say interpersonal relationship in my department are above the national average. In every department in the country has a crisis. Crisis in the sense, a lot of hierarchy and all that. And people would ask, what do you mean by above national average? Every colleague talks to every colleague. That itself is great in this country. Rao set those traditions. And of course, Rajan, Shanta, Cecil, they contributed to that rich tradition, a democratic tradition. Now, I used to meet Rao after he retired. So one day I asked him, sir, how are you spending the time? Then Rao said, neither I have given my good habits nor bad habits. This is what he said. What were my good habits? Reading continuously, keeping himself up to date in the knowledge. He used to buy latest books. Even after he superannuated, I used to see latest book, even if it was expensive. And at a personal level, I knew since Rao's personal family life and all that, in those days salaries were very low. Professor salary was, and he had a stepbrother. And that stepbrother, they couldn't settle down. So I remember that the way he used to send the money to his stepbrother, and although family had problems, and once he said, in some coaching center, he wanted to teach in 2 coaching centers so that he can meet the expenditure. And that, see, personal life, and that the way he used to help his brother was not of any help, but he thought it was his responsibility to take care of brother. See, this humane quality of Rao. And of course, another thing unique about Rao, which also used to say is, mother's order was any order from mother, any word from mother, he would carry. And he was going to US. And mother said that flight time is not according to Jyotishkas or whatever astrology. She said it's not a good moment. You can't leave tomorrow. Then what he did is earlier one day before, he went to some friend, slept from that house, he went to airport. But he told his mother, I am leaving at a right, astrological time, I will go and stay, then I will go to the airport. That was the type of Rao. He respected his mother, cared for his brother. And of course, son, when he went for a intercaste marriage, so Rao said, look, you people talk, I am a practitioner. My son has gone for intercaste marriage. Although in the house there was a problem, but Rao had, and he used to say that make virtue out of necessity. So, he had a different type of person. And recalling Rao, I think one of the outstanding, person as a human being, and outstanding, scholarship, of course, was amazing. And working with him was always a pleasure. It was a great pleasure to work with Rao, and remembering him, perhaps among the teaching, he was a stalwart. In the political science world, Rao was a stalwart, and only thing is he never written, has not written much. I always used to tell him, sir, your scholarship is so high, but no, he always enjoyed reading than writing. So, this is Rao. He enjoyed every minute of life, every moment of life, and lived very intense life. That's where anybody who knew Rao has something to benefit from his life, from the way, art of living a full of life. See, not missing any minute. If there is some time, he would pick up some book. I was always surprised, amused also, that somebody would go to washroom with something to read. He wouldn't, he was living, I am giving this example, that how intensely Rao lived. And what an art of living. If Rao had written his memories and how he lived life, how intensely he lived life, and he lived long life because of that lively, interest in everything. That's what made his life a very long life, and he lived a full life, and always remembering like Rao, recording perhaps his experience, his scholarship. A teacher of like Rao was there would be very useful to the succeeding generations.